I never thought I'd be a soldier. My home was near the Niagara River, where my family farmed and traded peacefully. But everything changed in 1812 when the United States declared war on Britain, and that meant war on us in British North America. The Americans thought Canada would be easy to take. They expected us to welcome them. But they were wrong. We weren't just British soldiers fighting back. We were farmers, Indigenous warriors, and even former Americans who had moved north. We were fighting for our land, our families, and our future. Why did this war happen? At first, I didn't understand why there was a war at all. Britain and the US were fighting over trade, ships, and power. The British Navy had been stopping American ships, taking their sailors, and forcing them to serve for Britain. The Americans were angry, but they also wanted more land and had their eyes on Canada. Some American leaders believed invading would be easy, calling it a mere matter of marching. But we knew better. British soldiers, local militia, and Indigenous warriors were ready to defend our home. Indigenous warriors and Tecumseh. One of the strongest leaders in this war was Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief who led an Indigenous alliance. He and his warriors fought alongside the British, not because they loved Britain, but to stop the Americans from taking more Indigenous land. Tecumseh was a brilliant warrior, and his men played a huge role in early victories. At the Battle of Detroit in 1812, he and British General Isaac Brock tricked the Americans into surrendering without a fight. They made their army look bigger than it was, and the American general was so scared that he gave up the fort without firing a shot. It was a huge win for us, but the war was far from over. The burning of York and Washington. By 1813, the fighting was worse. The Americans attacked and captured York, now Toronto, burning parts of the town. We were furious. A year later, the British got their revenge. In August 1814, British troops marched into Washington, D.C., and set fire to the White House, the Capitol, and other buildings. The flames lit up the night sky, and the Americans realized we weren't giving up easily. The Battle of Queenston Heights. One of the fiercest battles I fought in was at Queenston Heights. The Americans crossed the Niagara River, trying to take our land, and we had to stop them. General Brock, our fearless leader, led the charge but was shot and killed. Even though we lost him, we fought harder in his name. With the help of Tecumseh's warriors and reinforcements, we pushed the Americans back and won the battle. But the war wasn't over. Laura Secord's brave journey. Not all heroes in this war were soldiers. In 1813, a woman named Laura Secord overheard American soldiers planning a surprise attack. She set off on a dangerous journey, walking through forests, swamps, and enemy territory for nearly 30 kilometers. She reached the British forces just in time, and because of her warning, the British and their Indigenous allies were able to prepare and defeat the Americans at the Battle of Beaver Dams. The war ends, but nothing changes. By late 1814, both sides were tired of fighting. Britain and the U.S. signed the Treaty of Ghent, which ended the war. Strangely, the treaty didn't change any borders. Everything went back to how it was before the war started. But that doesn't mean the war didn't matter. It proved that Canada could stand its ground. It strengthened bonds between British settlers and Indigenous nations. Though Britain later broke many of its promises to Indigenous allies, it also gave Canadians a sense of pride. We had survived an invasion and fought side by side to protect our land. Why the War of 1812 still matters. The War of 1812 wasn't just about British and American soldiers. It was about people like me, ordinary farmers and shopkeepers who picked up weapons to defend their homes. It was about Indigenous nations fighting for their land and leaders like Tecumseh, who dreamed of an alliance to stop American expansion. It was about heroes like Laura Secord, who risked everything to help. Even though the war ended over 200 years ago, its effects are still seen today. The borders of Canada and the United States remained because of this war. The stories of bravery, sacrifice, and survival still shape our history. And for those of us who fought, we knew we weren't just defending land. We were defending the future of Canada.
Thanks for watching. Simplify your teaching journey with super simple sheets. Across Canada, we're known for our ready-to-use, curriculum-aligned worksheets. Dive into our educational solutions at supersimplesheets.com. Super Simple Sheets. From coast to coast, worksheets that work.